He was one of the most charismatic bodybuilders the sport has ever seen. A giant on stage and in the hearts of everyone who followed his journey. With monstrous arms and a presence you couldn't ignore, he won over the crowd without ever needing a single title. But behind that big smile was a story packed with tough choices, painful lessons, and powerful comebacks. Today, you're going to meet the man behind the muscles. So grab your pre-workout and come along, because this ride goes way beyond bodybuilding. It's about legacy, truth, and raw humanity. Mike Matarazzo was born on November 8th, 1965, in Boston, Massachusetts. He grew up in a working-class neighborhood where opportunities were rare and everyday life was tough. From a young age, he had to learn how to be strong, not just physically, but mentally too. He didn't come from money and didn't have anything handed to him. He was just a regular kid trying to find his place in the world. Inspired by movies like Rocky, Mike threw himself into boxing. He connected with the grit, the grind, and the never-give-up attitude of the sport. And it didn't take long for his talent to shine. In 1985, he won the state Golden Gloves Championship, one of the most respected titles for up-and-coming fighters. It felt like he'd found his path. But like a lot of things in life, fate had a plot twist waiting. While training for boxing, Mike started getting into weightlifting. At first, it was just to get stronger and tougher in the ring. But then something clicked. The idea of sculpting his own body, building something unique through sheer effort, totally captivated him. Every session brought visible results, and that lit a fire in him. Before long, the gym became his favorite place to be. It didn't take long before Mike decided to swap the gloves for the iron. Bodybuilding went from being just a side thing to becoming his main focus. He went all in, reading every muscle mag he could get his hands on, mimicking poses from the greats, and training with laser focus. His hunger to grow matched his discipline. And soon, he had his first real breakthrough. In 1989, he won the Gold's Gym Classic, his very first competition. Imagine winning on your debut? But what happened 2 years later was even more jaw-dropping. In 1991, Mike Matarazzo stunned the bodybuilding world by winning the NPC USA Championships. And he didn't just beat random guys. He beat legends in the making like Flex Wheeler, Ronnie Coleman, and Chris Cormier. Only his second show ever, and he was already dominating the amateur scene. Can you imagine the pressure and thrill of a moment like that? That one wasn't just about the trophy. It was his golden ticket into the big leagues. With that title, Mike earned his IFBB Pro card, a massive achievement, especially for someone so new on the scene. He was now officially a pro, ready to face off against the best of the best. From a humble Boston neighborhood to the most elite stages in the world. What a turn of events, right? It just goes to show, with enough drive, anyone can go far. Mike's story proves that humble beginnings don't mean small dreams. What really matters is having passion, persistence, and the guts to change direction when it counts. After winning the NPC USA Championships in '91, Mike took a bold step. He moved to Venice, California. This place was known as the Mecca of bodybuilding, home of the legendary Gold's Gym where all the icons trained. There, he dove headfirst into the pro circuit. In no time, he was surrounded by champions, photographers, top magazines, and life-changing opportunities. For a kid from Boston, it was like stepping into a dream. That same year, Mike made his debut at Mr. Olympia, the biggest bodybuilding stage in the world. Just being up there among the giants was already a huge deal. He placed 16th, but his presence made waves. Not just because of his size, but because of the energy he brought. His arms and calves were already insanely developed, two muscle groups that would become his trademarks in the years to come. What set Mike apart from other athletes was his raw power combined with natural charisma. He wasn't the most symmetrical or the most aesthetic, but man, he was unforgettable. When he walked on stage, the crowd came alive. His arms measured over 22 inches, around 56 centimeters, and his calves were so massive they looked like they were carved out of stone. A lot of people saw him as the standard when it came to those muscle groups. Do you think there's a specific muscle group that defines a bodybuilder's presence? Between 1991 and 2001, Mike competed in 7 Mr. Olympia contests. That alone shows how respected and consistent he was. Even without hitting the podium, he stayed competitive for a solid decade, something very few managed to do. His best placing came in 1998 when he ranked 9th, a huge accomplishment considering how insanely stacked the lineup was that year. That was the peak of his career. Being in the top 10 in any global sport is something to be proud of, wouldn't you agree? During his journey, Mike got a tempting offer to join the WBF, World Bodybuilding Federation, a new league created by Vince McMahon, the same guy behind WWE. The organization promised high salaries and a more showbiz approach to bodybuilding. Matarazzo was offered $100,000 a year, double what he was making at the time. But he turned it down. He chose to stick with the IFBB, where he saw more tradition and real respect for the sport. That decision showed Mike was in it for more than just fame. He wanted to grow within the traditional circuit to prove himself against the best. No shortcuts, no flashy contracts. That move made his image even stronger with fans. People saw him as a true warrior of the sport, someone who couldn't be bought. It also earned him deeper respect within the bodybuilding community. Mike's rise wasn't about trophies. It was about consistency, integrity, and his connection with the crowd. He proved he could make history without being number one. Mike was always known for his intensity. In training, he never held back and didn't worry much about perfect form. His goal was simple: grow as much as possible, as fast as possible. To make that happen, he lived a hardcore lifestyle, both in the gym and at the dinner table. One bizarre but true example: he used to blend tuna with orange juice and drink it like a shake. Yeah, seriously, gross. Definitely. But to him, if it helped build muscle, it was worth it. Would you be brave enough to drink that? This obsession with extreme gains made him ignore a lot of important advice. Experienced athletes warned him, training with bad form will wreck your body. But Mike didn't care. He'd rather lift the heaviest weight possible, even if his technique suffered. And for a while, that actually worked. His arms blew up, his calves became legendary, and the gains kept coming. But in the long run, that kind of approach always takes a toll. On top of the heavy training, Mike also used substances that are common in pro bodybuilding. Anabolic steroids, growth hormone, and diuretics became part of his routine. Years later, he openly admitted these played a major role in the health issues he faced. At first, everything seemed under control. But the constant use, mixed with brutal workouts and a poorly planned diet, slowly started wearing his body down. The first big scare came in 1993 while prepping for the Arnold Classic. To hit that ultra-shredded look, Mike overloaded on diuretics and potassium, stuff that helps you dry out, but can be super dangerous if abused. On the day of the contest, his body gave out. He had severe cramps on stage, lost partial vision, and had to be rushed to the hospital. It was a wake-up call. Something was seriously off. That moment was a turning point. Until then, Mike thought he could handle anything. But right there, he realized he wasn't invincible. Those harmless diuretics nearly killed him. And the worst part? He wasn't alone. Lots of athletes were risking their health to look perfect for just one day. After that, Mike started rethinking his choices. He knew something had to change if he wanted to keep competing without destroying himself. He began to clean up his diet, monitor his supplement use, and pay more attention to how his body was responding. It was the start of a much-needed shift. But even with the changes, some damage was already done. Bodybuilding gave him massive muscles, but it also planted the seeds of the health issues that would come later. After the 1993 collapse, many thought Mike Matarazzo was done competing. But quitting just wasn't in his DNA. He took that scare as a warning and pivoted. He fine-tuned his prep, listened more to his body, and reevaluated his entire routine. With more balance, he managed to keep his impressive physique while taking better care of his health. Slowly but surely, Mike made his way back to the stage. And in 1996, he made a powerful comeback at the Night of Champions, one of the most respected shows in the IFBB Pro Circuit. He showed up in great shape, proving he was still one of the top guys in the game. He placed 5th, and that alone was a huge statement. The fans went wild. The bodybuilding community gave him props. And Mike felt re-energized to keep pushing forward. 2 years later, in 1998, Mike hit the peak of his career. Everything just seemed to click that year: training, diet, physique, confidence. At the Night of Champions, he took 3rd place, one of his best results ever. And shortly after, he snagged 2nd place at the Toronto Pro, proving he was in top form. Judges praised his insane muscle density, and fans were hyping him as one of the favorites. Big Guns was officially back. But the biggest highlight of that year was his performance at Mr. Olympia. For the first time, Mike broke into the top 10 at the most prestigious competition in bodybuilding, finishing 9th. That meant he was among the 10 best bodybuilders on the planet. And for someone who never won a major title, it was powerful recognition for years of hard work and dedication. What's even more impressive is that Mike did it all without losing who he was. He stayed that same down-to-earth, charismatic guy who connected with fans in a real way. His workouts were still intense, but with more responsibility. He knew he couldn't keep pushing recklessly. He'd learned the hard way that success means nothing without health. Don't you agree that balance is the key to any long-lasting victory? 1998 represented everything Mike had been chasing: respect, recognition, and the proof that he belonged among the greats. Even without winning the Mr. Olympia, he pulled off something even harder: winning people's hearts. Fans didn't love Mike just for his massive physique. It was his spontaneous, fun-loving vibe. He smiled, joked, made faces, and poured emotion into every pose. One of those gestures even became his trademark, the classic tongue-out move. Inspired by Gene Simmons from Kiss, it started as a random moment. But the crowd loved it so much that he kept doing it, and it became iconic. That move brought something rare to the sport: lightness. While most athletes stayed stoic and serious, Mike purposely broke the tension with humor and ease. He understood that stepping on stage wasn't just about flexing, it was about entertaining, inspiring, and connecting. That's why people loved seeing him. He wasn't just there to compete. He made the audience feel part of the show. One of the most unforgettable moments happened at the 2001 Mr. Olympia. Instead of staying on stage like everyone else, Mike broke protocol and stepped down into the crowd to pose among the fans. It was a bold move, and people went wild. It was different, it was real, it was classic Mike. It showed that he didn't see fans as just spectators. He saw them as part of his journey. Moves like that only deepened the bond between him and his supporters. People would shout, "Stick your tongue out, Mike," before he even walked on stage. It became a kind of ritual, a private moment between him and the crowd. And that made him unforgettable, even among more technical or decorated athletes. Mike was also super approachable offstage. Whenever he could, he chatted with fans, took pictures, gave advice. He knew being an icon wasn't just about having giant muscles. It was about being humble. A lot of people said that behind that superhero physique, he was one of the most down-to-earth guys in the sport. And that showed in the way people treated him, with real love, respect, and admiration. Those iconic performances and genuine connection with fans made Mike Matarazzo a one-of-a-kind figure in bodybuilding. He may not have been number one in trophies, but he was number one in a lot of people's hearts. And maybe, just maybe, that's the toughest title of all. But not everything in a bodybuilder's life is smooth. After years of competing with the best, Mike Matarazzo started feeling the weight of his intense career. In 2001, he did one more Mr. Olympia, but this time, the result was disappointing: 21st place. For most, that would just be a bad year. But for Mike, it was a sign. Maybe his body was asking for a break. Sometimes, the hardest fight isn't pushing forward. It's knowing when to stop. Retiring wasn't an easy decision, but Mike knew that keeping up with the grind could come at a serious cost to his health. After a decade at the top, he decided to turn the page. Away from cameras and bright lights, he went searching for a fresh start. He moved to Modesto, a quiet town in California, a total shift from the buzz of Venice Beach. There, he found a calmer, more grounded pace of life. Far from the spotlight, Mike took on a regular job working as a bail bondsman. A simple, stable gig. It was like going back to his working-class roots. Deep down, he'd always been a regular guy, even with all the fame. And this new beginning showed that happiness could exist outside the world of bodybuilding. Accepting a new reality isn't always easy, but Mike did it with grace. After retiring, Mike completely stepped away from social media and online forums. He used to say he was a caveman and barely touched a computer. That helped him keep his peace of mind. He didn't care what people were saying about him online. He lived in the real world. He spent his time focusing on his health and reconnecting with what truly mattered. Nowadays, that might seem like a radical move, but maybe it was exactly what he needed. One of Mike's greatest joys during this new phase was fishing with his kids. That simple activity brought back memories of time spent with his own father. Sitting by the lake, rod in hand, his kids by his side, that's where he fell whole. That's where he found real peace. No crowds, no spotlights, just the sounds of nature and the warmth of family. Do you have a memory like that? Something simple but priceless? This new routine revealed the man behind the muscle and the fame. Just a regular guy with simple dreams and a big heart. He traded the spotlight for quiet afternoons with the people who truly mattered. He still worked out, did light exercises, but nothing extreme. His focus now was staying healthy, living well, and enjoying every moment. That shift in mindset gave him a whole new perspective on life. Mike Matarazzo's early retirement wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with a search for balance, wellness, and inner peace. He showed us that it's never too late to start over, even when your whole life seems built around a single goal. But even far from the stage and living a quieter life, Mike couldn't escape the consequences of years of extreme physical strain and substance use. In December 2004, his health took a serious hit. He was diagnosed with heart failure and had to undergo emergency surgery, a triple bypass. It was a complex procedure, but it was the only way to restore blood flow through his blocked arteries. At the time of the surgery, Mike was only 38 years old. For someone who'd spent his life building strength, lying on an operating table at that age was a harsh wake-up call. Still, he kept his humor and faith, believing it was just a bump in the road. The procedure went well, but doctors were clear the issue wasn't fixed, just managed. His heart was already showing signs of severe damage. Sadly, 3 years later in 2007, another scare shook Mike and his family. During a routine checkup, he suffered a heart attack. It was another brutal reminder of how serious things had gotten. This time, doctors had to implant a defibrillator, a device to prevent deadly arrhythmias. It allowed him to keep living, but with constant medical monitoring. With a new diagnosis, doctors estimated that Mike's heart was functioning at just 20 to 25% capacity. That's a terrifying number. Anything under 20% meant he'd need to be placed on the heart transplant list immediately. And that's exactly what happened. Mike was added to the list, hoping for a miracle. But as many know, finding a compatible heart can take time, and time isn't always on your side. Meanwhile, his daily life had to change even more. Simple tasks like walking or climbing stairs became real challenges. The same body that once moved massive weights was now struggling just to stay upright. It felt like his body no longer belonged to him. The frustration was intense, but he didn't let bitterness win. Despite the seriousness of it all, Mike never gave up hope. He stayed surrounded by friends, family, and faith. He believed there was a purpose in everything and that he could overcome this too. Whenever he could, he shared messages with other athletes, warning them about the risks of substance use and neglecting their health. Even while battling his own limits, he kept trying to make a difference. Those years were the toughest of Mike's life. It was a quiet, ongoing battle against time and against the consequences of his past. The body that had once been his greatest pride now needed constant care. After so many years devoted to bodybuilding, Mike began to see his story through a different lens. In interviews with Flex magazine, especially after his heart issues, he opened up like never before. He admitted that the biggest causes of his condition were the steroids, growth hormone, and diuretics he had used throughout his career. It was a hard truth to face, but one that needed to be said. Mike didn't sugarcoat it. If he could go back, he wouldn't have used those substances. He said he loved bodybuilding, but deeply regretted the paths he took to chase his goals. I bet everything and lost in every area, he confessed. And he wasn't just talking about physical health. He meant emotional, financial, and mental losses too. It's hard to realize that in chasing a dream, you can sometimes drift away from what truly matters. Those interviews hit hard in the fitness world. For the first time, an athlete of his level was that honest about the darker side of competitive bodybuilding. And he wasn't being dramatic. He was trying to save lives. His message was clear: stay away from drugs. He knew a lot of young people saw bodybuilding as a road to glory, but didn't understand the real cost behind the scenes. Mike also emphasized taking care of your health, not just how you look. One piece of advice he always repeated was, get health insurance. Get regular checkups. Don't wait for the problem to show up. He spoke with the weight of someone who had learned the hardest way possible. Skipping tests, ignoring cholesterol, and living in extremes had cost him way too much. He shared that during his competitive years, his diet was totally unbalanced. He'd eat 10 to 15 pounds of red meat a day, with no fruits or veggies at all. He even avoided fruit because of the natural sugar. And still, he said the biggest issue wasn't the food, it was the chemicals. To him, the real enemy was invisible and silent. Even while dealing with serious physical limitations, Mike stayed grounded and committed to helping others. His words were raw and honest. He wasn't trying to bash the sport. He was trying to warn those just getting started. He said he would have rather lived like his grandfather, with a regular job and a long life. Because when it's all said and done, what matters more, a trophy or 20 more years with your family? Mike Matarazzo's words still echo today like a wake-up call. He reminds us that true greatness is about recognizing mistakes, protecting your health, and having the guts to change. On August 16, 2014, Mike Matarazzo's heart stopped. He was only 48. After years of heart issues and waiting on the transplant list, his body just couldn't keep going. The news shook the bodybuilding community. Even people who never saw him win a major title knew how important he was. Mike was more than an athlete. He was a symbol of strength, charm, and humanity. His death was a harsh reminder of the consequences of choices made long ago, but also sparked an outpouring of heartfelt tributes. Athletes, fans, and journalists from around the world honored him, recognizing the impact he had on the sport and on so many lives. Many said that even without the big wins, Mike was a true champion, because his legacy wasn't in medals, it was in the message he left behind. Among all the memories, one quote from Mike stuck with his fans. In an interview, he was asked what he hoped to hear when he got to heaven. His answer was simple, emotional: "Come in, Michael. You were a good man on earth." That line says it all. After everything he went through, he knew that what really counts is being good. And isn't that what we all want, deep down? Mike Matarazzo will always be remembered for his giant arms, his insane calves, and those unforgettable performances. But above all, he'll be remembered for having the courage to speak the truth, to warn the next generation, to own his mistakes, to live fully and finish humbly. In a sport often driven by ego, he was a rare example of real humanity. Even when his health was failing, Mike never played the victim. He carried himself with dignity, always showing love to his family and fans. His Catholic faith was a constant source of strength through the toughest moments. And in his final years, he found peace, far from the spotlight, but close to what truly mattered. In the quiet of a simple life, he found meaning again. And maybe that's where real success hides. Today, his name still lives on among the legends of bodybuilding. His videos, interviews, and tributes keep the flame alive. More than that, his words continue to guide those just starting out. He showed us that muscles impress, but character endures. It's hard to close the chapter on Mike Matarazzo's story, because in a way, it keeps living on in everyone he touched. His legacy goes beyond the stage, beyond the trophies. He was a giant, not just in size, but in soul, in honesty, in presence. May his journey inspire us to chase our dreams without losing who we are. So, what did you think of Mike Matarazzo's story? Powerful, right? A life full of highs and lows, but also filled with lessons that hit deep. If this story inspired you, moved you, or made you think, go ahead and hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow and keep spreading stories like this. And hey, if you're not subscribed yet, click that button and turn on the bell so you don't miss any of our new content. Here on the channel, we talk about real bodybuilding with soul, with history, and with deep respect for the legends who shaped the sport. If you want to support this work even more, consider becoming a channel member. It helps us keep producing videos like this, and you also get exclusive perks and early access to everything we're working on. Now, I really want to hear from you. What stood out the most in Mike's story? Do you believe his legacy goes far beyond the stage? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read everything. This space is ours, and every comment adds even more depth to the conversation. And of course, if you know someone who loves bodybuilding or someone who needs to hear this message of resilience and awareness, share this video with them. Sometimes a story like this hits someone in a way we never expect. Let's get this message out to as many people as possible